The night was filled with glittering lights, soft music, and the intoxicating laughter of strangers who had no idea what pain was quietly being born elsewhere. In a corner of an expensive hotel suite, a man thought he was living his best life. The glass of wine in his hand, the woman beside him whispering flattery, and the thrill of feeling desired. He didn't know that while he drowned in temptation, his wife sat at home, wide awake, staring at a clock that seemed to mock her with every passing tick. She wasn't angry anymore. Anger had burned away months ago. What she felt now was emptiness, cold and sharp. The kind that only comes when you've given someone all your love and they've thrown it away like it meant nothing. By the time he returned home, in the early hours of the morning, her heart had already made a choice. And on the dining table, where they once shared meals as a family, she left the papers that would change both of their lives forever. Divorce papers. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength to walk away when love turns into betrayal, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to Stories Collection, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything to this community of hope and healing. The story of Daniel and Emily had once been the kind of love others envied. They were high school sweethearts who believed love could conquer all. Emily remembered the way Daniel used to hold her hand, as if he never wanted to let go, the way he would sneak her notes in class, and the way they used to dream about a future together. Their wedding had been simple, yet beautiful. Surrounded by close friends and family, filled with laughter, tears of joy, and whispered promises of forever. For years, they built a life of stability. Emily supported Daniel through sleepless nights, when he studied for his law exams, while he stood by her side when she opened her small art studio. Together, they had dreams, they had laughter, and they had a bond that seemed unshakable. But life has a way of testing love, and sometimes, temptation whispers louder than loyalty. It began with late nights at work, excuses that seemed reasonable, and a distance that slowly grew like a silent wall between them. Emily noticed the way Daniel's eyes no longer lingered on her, the way he grew restless at home, the way his phone seemed to be glued to his hand with messages he quickly hid. She wanted to believe it was stress, pressure, or something temporary. But deep down, her heart already knew. The night he didn't come home was the night her suspicions became reality. He wasn't working late. He wasn't stuck in traffic. He was with someone else, chasing a thrill that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with selfishness. Emily sat in their bedroom, staring at old photographs, the ones where Daniel's smile was pure and his arm was draped protectively around her shoulders. She remembered how he once promised to never break her heart, how he once swore that she was the only woman he would ever love. Tears burned her eyes, but there was no use crying anymore. Tears couldn't change a man's choices. By the time Daniel stumbled into the house with guilt hidden under the scent of perfume that wasn't hers, Emily's heart had turned to stone. The divorce papers were already signed. The pen had carved into the paper with steady, unshaking strokes, and her decision was final. For Daniel, seeing those papers was like having the air punched out of his lungs. Suddenly, the reality of his actions crashed down upon him. The mistress, the excitement, the lies, all of it felt hollow compared to the weight of losing Emily. He wanted to beg, to explain, to plead that it was a mistake, that he still loved her. But the truth was undeniable. He had betrayed the woman who gave him everything, and now she was walking away. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's world crumbled. The mistress, who once seemed so exciting, disappeared the moment his life became complicated. Friends who cheered his recklessness turned silent when things fell apart. Alone in an empty apartment, Daniel began to realize what he had thrown away. The home he once shared with Emily felt colder, without her presence. Without her laughter echoing in the walls. Without the little touches of love she left everywhere. Flowers on the table. Notes of encouragement on the fridge, warmth in every corner. He tried calling her, but Emily didn't answer. He wrote letters that never got a reply. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt the weight of loneliness pressing down like a suffocating fog. Meanwhile, Emily was rediscovering herself. It wasn't easy. Heartbreak never is. She cried at night, she felt the ache of memories, and she struggled with the emptiness of starting over. But slowly, she found strength. Her art became her outlet, and every brushstroke carried a piece of her healing. Her studio began to flourish as people connected with the raw emotion in her work. She found joy in small things again, walking in the park, sipping coffee alone, painting at sunrise. For the first time in years, she wasn't defined by someone else's choices. She was free. Months passed, and Daniel saw Emily from a distance one afternoon. She was at an art exhibition, surrounded by admirers praising her work. She looked radiant, stronger than he had ever seen her. There was no trace of the woman he had broken, only a survivor, someone who had risen from the ashes of betrayal and rebuilt herself with grace. His heart ached with regret, but it was too late. Emily wasn't his anymore. She had moved on, and all he had left was the bitter taste of what he had lost. This story isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about choices, consequences, and the resilience of the human heart. Emily's strength reminds us that love should never be one-sided, and respect is non-negotiable. Betrayal may break someone, but it can also build them into someone stronger, wiser, and braver. Daniel's regret became a lesson, not just for him, but for anyone who thinks love is replaceable. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Leave a comment below to let us know how you felt. Your words inspire this community to keep creating stories that heal and uplift. Special request to comment line: what would you have done if you were in Emily's place? Leave your answer in the comments. Your story could help someone else find their strength today. The night sparkled with city lights and the hum of life in places where laughter and temptation collided. Daniel thought he was untouchable as he leaned back in a hotel suite, glass of wine in his hand, while another woman whispered sweet nothings beside him. He had convinced himself that it was harmless, that he deserved this thrill. But while he was lost in selfish indulgence, his wife Emily sat at home, staring at the clock, her chest heavy with the weight of knowing. She wasn't angry anymore. Anger had burned out long ago, leaving only silence and a tired ache. By dawn, she had already made her choice. When Daniel stumbled in hours later, smelling of perfume that wasn't hers, he didn't see it right away. The neatly stacked divorce papers resting on the dining table, the ink of her steady signature sealing the end of their love story. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength to walk away when love turns to betrayal, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to Stories Collection, and leave a comment below. Daniel and Emily had once been the perfect picture of love. They were high school sweethearts, the kind of couple others admired. Their wedding had been small but beautiful, their life filled with shared dreams and little sacrifices. Emily believed in him when no one else did. She worked extra shifts to help him through law school, cooked meals during late-night study sessions, and cheered him through every milestone. He once promised her the world, swore she was his forever. And for years, she believed it. But slowly, their story changed. The late nights grew longer. The phone calls became secretive. Daniel's laughter no longer belonged to her. She saw it coming. The distance, the lies, the shadows that grew between them. But part of her hoped it was just a phase. when he stopped coming home altogether. When excuses fell apart, her hope broke with it. She knew where he was that night, and she knew who he was with. The papers had been waiting in a drawer for weeks, but her heart hadn't been ready until that night. Signing them felt like shattering glass. Painful, final, but necessary. She placed them where he couldn't miss them, on the table where they once held hands over dinners, where they once planned their future. When Daniel saw them, his world cracked. Suddenly, the mistress, the thrill, the lies, none of it mattered. He saw in one glance what he had lost: Emily's love, her trust, her presence. His throat tightened, regret burning like fire, but it was too late. In the days that followed, Daniel's life unraveled. The woman he betrayed his marriage for vanished when things grew complicated. Friends who once enabled his recklessness grew quiet. Alone in a silent apartment, Daniel felt the crushing emptiness of his choices. He tried calling Emily, writing letters, begging for a chance, but she had gone silent. The echoes of their laughter in his memory became his punishment. Emily, meanwhile, struggled but didn't collapse. Nights were hard, the memories sharper than knives, but she found strength in her art. Her paintings grew deeper, raw with the pain and beauty of survival. People saw her work and connected to it, and slowly her studio flourished. She began to rediscover herself, the woman who loved coffee at sunrise, the woman who laughed with friends, the woman who no longer lived in the shadow of betrayal. She wasn't broken, she was rebuilding. Months later, Daniel saw her at an art exhibition. She looked radiant, stronger than ever, surrounded by people who admired her resilience. His chest ached with regret, but he knew then that she was no longer his. Emily had risen from the ashes, and he was left with the lesson that love, once betrayed, can be lost forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Special request to comment line: what would you have done if you were Emily? Leave your answer in the comments. Your voice may inspire someone else to find stir